Hello, my name is Royston Lee. I have made this podcast for the local radio station series My Car. I decided to make this because I love cars, especially old ones, and it is a topic I can talk about for hours. I own a classic car myself. It is my hobby and passion. I love to take it out on a nice day in the summer on my own, or with friends, and of course to shows. To a lot of people, they think it is crazy to drive an old car. But to me, it covers my interest, how I came to own it, and by the time it has taken me to work out the car's history.
Welcome to My Car. Today I am talking to Roy about his love of classic cars. How long have you wanted a classic car for, Roy?
For years I have thought about buying a classic car. I would have loved to have had the same make car that I first owned, but there are very few left. I once saw one advertised on the paper, but when I went to see it, there was a lot of work to do to it, and the price was too much.
The classic car you have at the moment, where did you buy it? Was it private or garage bought?
I bought the car through eBay. It was a bit of a battle as I watched it for days. It stayed the same price even though there were a few people after it. The bidding finished with nobody winning. It stopped below the price the owner wanted. A little while later he emailed me to see if I was still interested in the car. If I was, it was mine.
What type of car do you own?
It is a 1964 Vauxhall Victor FB Deluxe, 4-door saloon, 2-tone green with a 1600cc engine. And instead of the usual 3-speed column gear change, it has a 4-speed floor change, which you paid extra for when the car was built.
Where was the car built? And how much would it have cost when it was new?
The car was built at Vauxhall's plant in Luton. It was dispatched in January and was on the road middle of February 1964. At the time, the Deluxe model would have cost £760. The Deluxe cost more than the other models because it had a heater and carpets, where the others had rubber mats and no heater.
How long have you had the car?
I have owned the car for nearly 4 years now, and hopefully it will be mine for quite a few years yet.
Have you got any history for the car?
Since owning the car, I have worked out the history of its life from new to the best of my ability. It started its life in Ayrshire, Scotland, with a lady owner. This I know because I have the original logbook. She had it for 4 years, then it went to her son, which it seems did not want it because he locked it in the garage for 10 years. From there it went to Newcastle upon Tyne, from there down to Northampton, then back up to Stafford. From there it went up to Burnley in Lancashire. That is where I acquired it from, and drove it back to Wales. Somewhere halfway through its life, somebody has taken the original registration off the car. I have found out that the number now resides on a 4x4.
Will you ever try to get the original registration back?
Hopefully one day I will get it back on the car. Without it, to me the car is incomplete. I will have to keep in touch with the DVLA to check to see if the number has been handed in. If it has, then I should be able to reunite it with the car. I hate it when people take the number off an old car just to make money. They have no interest in the cars at all. Once you do that, the originality of the car is lost forever.
Have you done much to the car since you've owned it?
I have done quite a bit. The second year I had it, the roof was resprayed and a small part of the steering was fitted. The following year, I completely overhauled the brake system and of course the usual points, plugs and engine oil change. Every year there is always something to do to an old car to keep it running.
Is it easy to maintain and also to source parts?
It is a lot easier to work on than modern cars. The engine bay is not so cluttered, so you have more room to move about, and you don't have any electronics. As for sourcing parts, there are plenty of firms around the country selling them. And of course there is eBay and the Vauxhall Victor Club, which I am a member.
What is it like to drive compared to a modern car?
To drive it is not for everybody's taste. Most people today love the power steering, electric windows, power brakes and climate control. They would not find any of these in the old car. I am lucky to have a heater. That is only because the car is a deluxe model. The lower models never had one.
Do you use it a lot, or is it just for shows?
During the winter, I keep it under wraps, except for two winter parades, one in Port Talbot and one in Pontedower. When March comes along, it is time for the wraps to come off and do a few jobs to get it ready for the summer shows. I am in a car club and we go to shows every weekend from May until the end of September. The car sits outside the house and I regularly use it as a second car to pop down to the shops. It is definitely not only for shows.
Do the people who come to these shows come just to see the old cars?
No, there are people of all ages. The people who look at the old cars are from 40 years old up. They like to come and have a chat about the car because they remember their grandfather or their father owning one at some time. The young people who come to look at the more modern cars.
Is it an economical car to use on the road?
It is not as economical to use compared with new cars. It does about 29 miles to the gallon. The upside is the car I have is pre-1973, so I do not pay road tax and insurance is only £64 a year.
Well, thank you, Roy. I'm sure our listeners will have enjoyed our chat.
When I was given this assignment, it was easy for me to decide on my topic, classic cars. Because as I said in the introduction, I just love them. They are a passion and hobby. I started by writing a plan of what I wanted to talk about. We have to start at the start. This is when I bought the car. That was quite an ordeal. It was bought on eBay, so you can imagine the confrontation. Then after taking ownership of the car, came the hard part, the checking it over to make sure it was roadworthy. I was very lucky it was. The next part was the best, getting into the car, sitting behind the wheel and going for a drive. It was fantastic. Now that's all I have to do is make sure it's in good condition and running order. I hope to keep it for a while yet. I used Audacity to make this podcast. It is a free download. If I wanted to make a more professional podcast, I would have to buy better equipment and learn to use it. Although the one I had was good and I found it excellent to use. I had a bit of trouble with the microphone. It started playing up halfway through the podcast. It would not work at all. I even tried my earphones, which has a mic, but even they would not work. It took a while, then everything worked again, so I managed to finish the podcast.